It's my pleasure to introduce my colleague for the first presentation, and I thought I would take this opportunity to tell you as well about our program here in African Studies at the University of Arizona. It's a truly interdisciplinary program with many different disciplines represented, with some interest, of course, in Africana and African and American Studies. There are a few brochures out there on the table if you would like to find out more about it. One of the new features that we are offering is an increase in number of courses that are taught online, so some of you might be interested in that. And we are also working on a new project of a new interdisciplinary minor in hip-hop cultures, because there are several of us who work on that. So if you would like to find out more about this, I would encourage you to contact me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. So it's my great pleasure, as I said, to introduce my colleague, Dr. Praise Zenenga, who is Assistant Professor of African Studies at the University of Arizona. Originally from Zimbabwe, he received his PhD from Northwestern University. Dr. Zenenga teaches a variety of interdisciplinary courses at the university, including, but not limited to, Introduction to African Literature, Pan-African Dance Aesthetics, Africana Theater Aesthetics, which by the way will be offered next semester, it's Africana 411, and USA and South Africa, Comparative Historical and Political Perspectives. He has also given presentations and performances, because he's also a performer, in storytelling, dance and music to the local community. And Dr. Zenenga has published several articles and chapters on censorship and protest movements in Zimbabwean theater, as well as on political and cultural constructions in Zimbabwean soccer. He is currently finishing a book manuscript entitled Contemporary Theater in Zimbabwe, Artists, Donors, and the State. The title of Dr. Zenenga's presentation today is The Language We Dance In, Story, Social Meaning, and Identity in Africa. Please help me welcoming Dr. Zenenga.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, good to see you all here. Some familiar faces from my larger dance family here in Tucson and the music family. And before I start, I want to introduce you to Miss Zuzu Nwapa. She is an African dancer. She has a studio called Movement Shala, which is in downtown. You can get more information from her after this, but I brought her in to help me show us some movements that are mostly related to dance and health and work and wellness. Ms. Zuzu is a registered nurse, and she works as a community, she works in the field of community health. So also welcome Ms. Zuzu. She will take up the last 15 minutes. She couldn't bring other dancers because they are all working. Most of them are nurses and therapists, and they have day jobs like all of us, and we are thankful for that. So do not be afraid or do not be shy when she asks you to come up and do a little bit of movement up here. So she needs help. She can't dance alone. I'll help her too. So AP has just talked about dance and censorship, and or theater and censorship, which is my other field of research. I would want to start off from there to say that, you know, in African culture, I guess most of the things, dance is quite cosmic and is very universal, so it also cuts across boundaries. Yet a lot of cultures have dance forms that are very much unique to them, and individuals within those cultures also have their own unique dance movements. So most of the things that I'm going to talk about, you guys might be familiar with. You may not say that doesn't apply to African dance alone. It applies to dance across all cultures. So you may find that some of the things cut across the boundaries and the borders. So in Africa, especially last summer 2010, I was privileged to travel to Ghana as part of a study abroad tour with some students. And we visited the Ashanti Kingdom, where dance is quite part of the royal court there and is part of the culture in many places out there. So you figure out that they have strict laws of how you should dance, you know, at different and specific occasions. So they practice what is called drum censorship. If your movement, your dance language, your gestures go beyond what is perceived to be morally correct in specific circumstances, the drummers will stop you from dancing. They have a dance language that tells you, no, you're crossing boundaries here. I have a clip from the Ashanti Kingdom that will help show us, you know, how to dance with decorum and grace and honor in front of royalty. You know, it's one of those kingdoms where dance is still very much part of the royal system. And in that culture too, we are also glad that we have Professor Yusuf, who comes from that specific country. And in that Ashanti culture, a king is usually elected on the basis that you have to be a good dancer. So it's one of the few cultures in the world where a king actually dances. And they also have what is called a queen mother who oversees the queen. This is not who oversees the king. This is not necessarily the king's wife, but it's also an independent woman who is elected, and she has the ultimate authority in the land to. She is the only one who can fire and recommend the hiring of a new king, and she is the only one who can also fire a king. So a king has to behave properly in front of the queen mother. She has quite some power. She also dances, as we shall see in the video that I will show towards the end. And talking about dances today in Africa, mostly we divide them into contemporary dances, which we don't want to use the term modern dance, because modern dance implies another form, which is a 20th century dance form, and it might confuse us. So we use the term contemporary dance, and we also, divide them between contemporary dance and traditional dances. Traditional, these are cultural dances, that are preserved, and the people try to practice them the way they were practiced or danced some hundreds of years ago. But we all know that dance and culture, everything is dynamic, especially in Africa. And there are a lot of forces that have impacted and fueled changes. And we are talking about slavery, we are talking about the history of colonialism in Africa, and how these fueled changes and transformed also the art forms in terms of people migrating and in terms of people changing lifestyles and so on. Those of us who were educated during the Marxist era will remember how we used to say that the economic base influences the superstructure. So culture and dance are part of the superstructure, and once a mode of economy changes, the dances that come out also change, So that's one of the things that I'll be distinguishing, that there are dances that are considered traditional, ones that we would rather freeze and store in the archives and in the museums. And there are also artists who, like Miss Uzo, and one of my friends, Nora Chipaumire, who dances with the Urban Bush Women. Those of you who are regulars at UA Presents, I think you are familiar with their work. They are at the cutting edge of mixing traditions, drawing from African traditions and also Western traditions, and mixing with other things like yoga and so on, to complete that whole idea of balance between body, mind, and spirit. And Uzo is a specialist in that, and that's what she will talk about and demonstrate to us. So there are those that are at the cutting edge of innovating and creating new dances and new fusions and experimenting with new forms. And there are other dances that you can't say these are, traditional dances are usually associated with rural areas and rural spaces, and then modern dances or contemporary dance in Africa is usually associated with the urban or cityscape, with urban spaces. And there are other dances that cut across, the two, the urban and the rural. I have in mind here dances like gumboot dance from South Africa, which is highly, which is a product of migrant workers who came to South Africa, to work in the mines, and they were coming from all over this region, from as far as Tanzania, Angola, Zambia, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, and so on. In the 1860s, when diamonds were discovered in South Africa and the gold mines were opened. So there's a huge area in South Africa called Kimberley, near the capital, Johannesburg, where gold has been mined since the 1860s, and there's a huge pool of migrant laborers there who brought with them dances from their different cultures. So dance in Africa also represents cultural diversity in that sense, especially a lot of our modern dances. They reflect the cultural diversities that came about with people migrating into the cities from different parts of the continent. So as by way of an overview, I just thought of putting up this map and also making a quick run-through of some facts and figures about Africa, which some of you who are not quite familiar with the continent might want to know. And you might want to know that Africa is the world's second largest continent, and also it is the second in size after Asia, size and population after Asia and so on. And the population of Africa was almost 900 million a couple of years back. And the continent's different population groups speak approximately 1,500 to 2,000 languages and about 8,000 dialects over and above some of the colonial languages like French, Portuguese, English, Spanish, and in South Africa we have what we call Afrikaans too. So those are some of the languages that are regarded as official languages. So all major regions of the world are represented in, all major religions of the world are represented in Africa. I'm talking about this because, we believe that in Africa dance originated in religion, in rituals and religious rites. So most religions of the world the major ones are represented in Africa, and in addition to the 1,000 indigenous traditional religions and belief systems that are also practiced on the continent. And those ones of you who follow current affairs know that there is a new country in Africa that was just granted autonomy and independence, and that's Southern Sudan. So we used to have 54 African countries, now we have 55, in addition to 3 others that still are waiting for their independence: Somaliland, Western Sahara, and a couple of other islands. And Africa is also home to the largest desert, the Sahara Desert, and I put some miles and some measurements there for those ones of you who are particularly interested in knowing how big. And also Africa's Nile River is the world's longest river, which is at 4,160 miles. And it's slightly longer by about 111 miles to the Amazon, although the Amazon in terms of volume is considered to be the largest in terms of the volume of water that it carries. So those are some of the facts about Africa. And those ones of you who want to know visually or want to check out visually how big Africa is, here are some of the countries that can fit into Africa if we were to do a mix and match there. They take out their snuff bottles and they're like, and sniff their stuff as they go along. And when they meet somebody, they know they are like, bye, see you next time. So the dance reflects all the routines, and those that are agrarian communities also use it to show how they work in the fields, to show hoeing, and how you work in the fields and how you harvest, and all the routines of daily life are reflected in that beautiful dance. It's one of the most graceful dances. You know, we always think of African dances as those dances where, you know, we have high energy level dances, but this one is a pretty laid-back dance with a very exciting rhythm. And there are songs that go with it. But today I will not teach you the songs for the sake of time. It's exciting when we do the songs with my students and how fast they catch it up and quickly get involved in it. And last week, I just showed them the basic concepts and say, you know, these dances are open to creativity. You guys can go ahead and create what you want to do and improvise. So I did my own improvisation and went on to do the drumming. And class was over and they didn't want to stop. I was on the drums. I played the drum until I had blisters, and they kept dancing, and some of them had to catch the shuttle, and the shuttle was leaving, and they kept dancing. The class is supposed to end at 7, and they kept dancing until about 7:45. So it was fascinating. They were just in the spirit, and I was afraid that somebody might get possessed and I might not know how to deal with that. Okay. So the purposes of dancing in Africa, like in many other societies, are varied. Africans dance, in addition to spiritual, social, celebratory, and aesthetic function. Dance is also a means to cross language barriers and communicate with each other. So dance functions as a form of human communication, and dance also functions as a form of communication with higher forces and those unseen forces. We talked about worship earlier, and dance also functions as a form of invocation or prayer or asking for help for those that rely on things like farming, hunting, fertility, and so on. While in Ghana, we saw the fishermen, you know, trying to dock their boats and so on, and they were singing and dancing and waiting for the waves to come as they sing and so on. And while in the evenings when we attended the dance, we see dance movements that are related to the, you know, how they pull the nets and how they also pull those heavy canoes and boats, you know, to the shore and try to dock them for the night or after a week's expedition and so on. And you know, we are talking about invocation and so on. There are different dances. As I told you, one of the dances that the Ndebele people, which is the second largest group in Zimbabwe, do is called Avalalanga dance, and it's a dance to chase away evil spirits or witches at night, you know. I will not do the witches dances, so I don't want to invite bad vibes in here. so I'll not do that, but there is this belief that if you are, you know, in Africa, the soldiers, those that are whose communities whose economies used to rely on raiding other communities and military-based economies like the Zulu nation, you know, they do a lot of military dances because their economy was based on that. Some agrarian communities do a lot of agricultural-related dances, and others do hunting dances, those that rely on hunting and gathering. And those that hunt, they believe that for you to be able to catch an animal like an elephant or a gigantic antelope, which we call kudu, the one with the spiral horns that go up, that's the juiciest game you can bring home in my part of the world. So for you to catch it, they believe that you have to conjure its spirit. So the night before the hunting expedition, you do a ritual and try to call the spirit of the animal and conjure it, so that when you go hunting, the animal would look dazed and it will be like, and you can just go and kill it. But if you don't do those things, all those antelopes, deers and stuff, they will be running like no one's business, and you'll come home empty-handed, and you risk turning your family into a vegetarian family if you're not careful. So dancing was really part of the dietary component of the society. So we talked about witches. They also believe that for them to have power over somebody, they should conjure your spirit, call your name, and do all those rituals. I think most of us are familiar with Macbeth and so on, and the incantation, and we all know how dance goes with music, poetry, incantation, and all those things, and clapping and so on. But the dance we do to chase away witches is called avalalanga, and I may want to show you this one is not as vigorous as the war dances I will show later. But it's also based, you know, most of our dances, as you could tell from the counting, they are based on triplets. That's why most of us here get thrown out when we try to do African dances. We find ourselves out of step, yet we think we are doing the right thing. It's a very weird kind of counting that you just have to get accustomed to. I get a lot of students who say, oh, I've never danced. I'm an anthropology major. I came here thinking that, you know, it's just reading and so on. I can't dance. And I tell them everybody has rhythm, everybody can dance, everybody who can move, everybody who has a heart that beats, you know, they can also dance. So those are some of the things we talk about. So the way this dance goes is it goes 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. So the song goes, avalalanga, avalalanga, we ambe usiku, avalalanga, 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 we ambe usiku, avalalanga. So the idea, the words say that it's based on a name and shame, that if you reveal that you know somebody's intentions, whatever they intend to do you will lose power, to do to you will lose power. So it's like naming and shaming, that, you know, we know your intentions. You guys, you go by night. Avalalanga, it means they don't sleep. They go by night. They use brooms, razor blades, needles, and all those things that witches use. So it's like you are revealing their intentions so that you render it useless. So those are some of the things that they do. And we are talking of invocation. So dance also functions as a form of inspiration and as a form of empowerment, especially before battles. And we all are familiar with the Zulus. And one of my sub-themes is dance as and identity, how dance is a form of identity, and dance is a form of empowerment, you know, of shaping your body and getting in shape, readying yourself for the battle, and so on. So this whole southern area is full of people who share a common dialect, and the group is called the Nguni people. And the largest of that group are the Zulus. So we have the Swazi, the Xhosa, the Tswana, the Sotho, the Ndebeles, and the Shanganis, and a lot of others. They all do a dance which is almost similar to each other, and the songs sometimes are similar, but they have very different things that distinguish them. You know, dance has to do with costumes, makeup, and so on. The Ndebele people are known to dress very colorfully, and they wear a lot of very intricate beads and so on. So those communicate a lot of things in terms of identity. And from the way one is dressed, you can tell that this person is a married woman, and she has 4 or 5 kids, and the firstborn is a boy, and she has 2 boys and 4 girls and so on. So you can count the beads and the lines and all those things on their body to say, oh, this is a respectable married woman, or this one is on the market, you know. So, so those things, so they have those little things. And as much as little movements and little gestures mean a lot in African culture, you know, even a wink means something, and you might think you're not doing anything, but you're actually communicating in a very subtle way, and so on. So amongst the Nguni group of people, they are the ones that do the famous kick that we always talk about, the one that they go ka-ka. And how you distinguish them, the Swazis, those from Swaziland area mostly, the Zulus are the ones that go straight up. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing the right, the right bottom, but I will see how my kick goes up. So, so those are the Zulus, but it has to go up really straight, and it's supposed to come to my shoulder. So I'm supposed to be bending for effect and throwing it high up here, but I eat a lot of burgers now. Last weekend, you know, it was Tucson Meet Yourself, and I performed with my music group called the Key Ingredients of African Soul. I danced a lot, and Saturday I thought I was attending a dance lecture by Zuzu, and I was sitting in front smiling, and she says, "Oh, Praise, come, stand up and dance." So Friday dancing, Saturday dancing, Sunday dancing, and Thursday I had that class where students would not stop. I was dancing. So today it's a week full of dancing. It's been a busy week. So the Swazi just do knee high. They are known for. They don't go higher than this. And the Tswanas, you know, they do a stomp and a shuffle and another stomp. So they go ta 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 ta. And the others carry big shields, and the others carry sticks, the others carry knob carries, the others, you know, carry little shields, and the others wear animal skins, the others wear skirts, and the other. So you can distinguish who is who and identify people in terms of their dance and in terms of their costume. And talking about those little things, the military dances and the decorum at court, I will show a couple of very short videos. I want to leave about 10 minutes for Ms. Zuzu to talk about those, to talk about how dance also functions as a form of wellness, which I deliberately left. So we might just want to show the very first clip here.
Historically, the other thing is that since the coming of King Shaka among the Zulus, the whole idea of making music and dancing became centered around the military tradition. So that one of the things that you wanted to demonstrate through dance was your physical strength. You were not just dancing, you were also putting yourself on display. That this is me, a great soldier and a dancer. The dancer had to be a soldier, and the soldier had to be a dancer. And that of course has been handed down as some kind of heritage. I'm not saying the other people did not necessarily fight wars, but it just depends on how the war actions have been handed down to the present generations.
But also let me add this, that dancing was the most important way also whereby someone communicated with the earth underfoot and also with the hidden energies deep, deep inside your soul. Now, when a young man wants to develop perfect muscles and wants to develop a healthy body in African traditional culture, that young man was encouraged to dance.
All through the 19th century, British forces pushed out of Cape Colony, overcoming one African people after another until in it.
Okay, so one of the things is that in a lot of African cultures, the way people communicate is that they start with, you know, dance is regarded as the ultimate form of communication, that which is able to communicate certain things that we cannot express through words, and that which also enables us to communicate with the feelings or with that are really deep in the inner soul of an individual, you know. this dancer is aggressive, I don't want to get near them. This one is a jealous dancer, this one is mourning, and this one, you know, is angry and is vengeful and so on. So you can tell dance reflects all those things. And the way it works is that it is believed that, you know, you start communicating with words and speech, you know, and it is believed that if you can't really express what you want to express, speech should lead to song or to music, you know. So you might want to hum it. I come from a culture where most of our music is based on yodeling and humming and all those things. So you hear our mbira music and marimba music, there's a lot of oh yere yere yere, oh yere yeah 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 yeah. So those are not words, but these are things that help create the mood and capture the art and create an atmosphere and a certain environment that's ideal for something. So you can tell from that somebody's mourning, somebody's appealing, and somebody's in love or somebody's excited. And those are some of the things that we can't put through words. And it is believed that if music fails, it is the body that you really is able. And for centuries, people have known that there are things that we can't put in words, that are put through, you know, movement, through gesture, and through dance. So I will show you one last clip from Ghana, which has to do with the dance at the court.
In parts of West Africa, when someone is asked about their identity, they are not asked, what is your language? What nation do you come from? What's your nationality? What's your ethnicity? What tribe do you belong to? They are asked, what do you dance?
From the start, Africans in America dance.
As the old song says, give the knee bone bent. In Africa, if your knees are bent, you're alive. If your legs are straight, you're dead. They might as well bury you.
What happens is, if you are taught dancing and you know it properly, when you hear the drums, I don't know how, I think the Americans say, does something to you, and the nearest English equivalent I can give, the inside of your head actually sweets you. It's just like tasting sugar, a certain kind of pride that you belong to a great people comes into you. You're not conscious of it, but it makes you move.
Talking drums are carried as symbols of exalted status. The Ashanti, king of the Ashanti people, has always been elected from the royal clan by a council of elders. Traditionally, to be chosen king, one had to be an excellent dancer. There are no restrictions on who can dance at court, but only the most able would dare to step forward in the presence of the king. If a dancer offends with inappropriate movements, the drummers immediately stop playing. The Ashanti call it drum censorship. Like court dance everywhere, Ashanti court dance is dignified, deliberate.
It aims at a certain kind of majestic movement with a dash of elegance in it, it must also be unhurried. In fact, when you try to hurry your movements, the drummers, while maintaining the rhythm, tells you, a king is more majestic when he walks slowly.
The hand speak an elaborate sign language.
The young man came. You were dancing, expressing certain ideas. The young man turned around and saw his queen mother. And then the queen mother got moved. Then the queen mother said, don't go away. Be with me. After all, I'm queen mother. So he said, then I will dance in attendance.
Okay, I will stop it here.
All right, hello everybody. All right, so this is going to be a bit of a call and response. When I say my sentence, you say yeah, okay? Can you try that?
Yeah.
Tucson Kun.
Yeah.
Tucson Kun.
Yeah.
You obey Kun.
Yeah.
When I say Kwezonu, you say ooh. Can you try that? Ooh. Okay. So, Tucson Kun. Let's try that again. Tucson Kun. Yeah. Tucson Kun. Yeah. Tucson Kun. Yeah. You obey Kun. Yeah. Kwezonu. Very nice. Thank you. I'd like to get everybody's attention that way. That's how we traditionally do things. I'm originally from Nigeria. He took the map down. I was going to boot to it. I'm actually an Igbo woman. You might recognize the Biafra, the Nigerian Civil War back in 1966. And I'm from that tribe, which is now back into Nigeria. And I came to this country and I was so excited to see how much African dance is going on in this country. In fact, so much is going on, especially here in Tucson. It's quite amazing. And I'm really honored that you asked me to come here and speak to you all, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. So the reason I'm here is to connect dance with our everyday lives. All right, so everybody can dance. Everybody has rhythm. Everybody who has a heartbeat has that rhythm. And if nothing else, you have the rhythm of your heartbeat. So if you could just take a moment to listen to your heartbeat. Now, if I asked you to recreate that with a snap, can you do that? Mine's a little faster though. I'm a little nervous. Okay.
I don't know which one you're looking at.
All right. So, and moving on and getting older, I realized that dance is what helped me get through my everyday living. I grew up in a very strict household, and dancing was okay indoors. Dancing was okay at celebrations, but education was priority. Your English, your science, priority. That's what the Igbo people are known for. And so when I came here and I was told, you can dance for as long as you want. In fact, you can take dance classes, you can, do whatever you need. I thought to myself, all right, how can I do this and still not be shunned by my family if they see me dancing in a video somewhere, right? Because that's, frowned upon. And then I went on and got my education, and that's what they wanted me to do. I became a nurse, and I worked at a hospital, which I will not name, and it was, dealing with death and dying. And it was really, really sad because I went to work doing my job to keep people alive, usually at the end of life, and they couldn't move. Many of them were bound to respirators. Many of them needed medications to stay alive. And it was just really a depressing sight for me. So I decided to move areas, and I moved into public health and community health. And I love it. And so I decided, how can I connect dance with health? And so I started to do all this research, and I found out about the Lebed method, which worked with, cancer survivors and people who were, either going through chemo or, just recently got diagnosed, or maybe had just family members who were experiencing pain. And some of those studies showed that the group of women and men who came together and danced and listened to music together did so much better emotionally, physically, than the group that didn't. Okay, so it was a little more intriguing, and I knew I wasn't weird because dancing always made me feel so much better. There's actually a more recent study that was done at the Albert Einstein School of Medicine in New York, and they wanted to find out exactly why dancing was important to the brain. And they found out that it helps with intelligence, it helps with decision making. So they studied for about 21 years, and they found out that the group of people who played golf and did swimming and basketball, that was great, but the group of people that did the dancing had less dementia and less Alzheimer's reports, which was pretty fascinating. So they wanted to know a little bit more about that, and so I thought, I'm even more on the right track here. Dancing is important. So here's the real question is, what if you can't dance, right? And as I walk here, I'm just walking. We all walk, right? So as you're walking, this is something that you learn. You learn these rhythms as a little kid, trying to get up and get your balance. That is your first step. That is your first dance. And if you could just walk, that is your dance, all right? So today, what I would like to do is to show you a few moves. And you don't have to get up. You can get up if you want to, but trust me, you can dance sitting. So there's no excuse. And at the end of the moves that we will all do together, all right, I would like to tell you that those moves have just improved your intelligence, just a tad bit. They really did. Okay. All right. So, Dr. Praise had mentioned something about dance and healing, and where I'm from, there's this, if you ever were to say, everybody knows what that means. This is a movement, right? So, the first move is just the stomp. Can everybody stomp? All right. So, I think we'll get a count, all right? Just one stomp. Stomp with me. Now can you say keep it going. Zobu, 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 zobu Tucson, azobu na Phoenix, na Tucson na Manka, na Phoenix na Choka, zobu, zobu, zobu. All right, all right, all right. That was wonderful. So what I was just saying is just, it just really means stomp it out. You can use this movement to stomp out anything. So let's just say you have a headache, and this headache will not go away. It is our belief that you can stomp it away, just as it's many beliefs that you could maybe dance off or sing off the witches away. There's some parallel communications there. And so I also said, stomp Phoenix, don't stomp Tucson. But that was just okay, all right. All right, I knew some of you would like that. All right, so adding on to that movement, because I know your brain has just programmed that stump, right? You got it. So now we're going to add the upper body, right? So this upper body, there's so much that can happen with the shoulders, right? You can shrug your shoulders, you can rotate your shoulders backwards, you can rotate your shoulders forward, you can even just isolate one at a time. It's totally up to you. And you all just did it, all right? And trust me, there are dance movements that are really intricate, and it's just the shoulders. So you don't have to get up, all right? Zobu, eyimba, eyi, eyimba, eyi, eyimba, eyi, eyimba, eyi, eyimba, eyi, zobu, 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 eyimba, eyi. Zuzu. I like your little stomp. Zuzu. 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 Zobu ASU. Asabuna. You a fake. You a Amaka. Now ASU a joker. All right. Thank you very much. That was great. All right. One more. If you can. So you've incorporated the lower body. You've incorporated the shoulders. Now let's just incorporate the smile. So no need to be very nervous. You know, when we talk about dance, a lot of people get really excited in a very bad way. I don't dance. And yet you're walking and whistling and shaking your head. That's all part of dance, right? And the reason why you're smiling right now is because you sent signals to your brain that's connected the music with the movement to improve your emotional well-being. It's simple. It almost seems like it should be simple. It should be prescribed by doctors. And we're giving pills instead. So when in doubt, love it! Stomp, okay? Maybe the gumboot folks would say that, yes, when in doubt, dance is my motto. Okay, all right, so this very last part of it is stomping, moving your shoulders. If you want to get up, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay. I might come to you and smile just to stimulate some smiles. All right? So, zobu, zobu,